Good evening. My name is Joe Sam Robinson. It's my pleasure to have with us tonight Mr. Harry Gross. Welcome, Harry. Harry, we deal a fair amount with research issues, and right now the country has been through one of the most consequential elections in some time. And the way democracy works is sometimes your side doesn't always win, and sometimes they lose. And maybe for our conversation tonight, I might take the place of an old conservative guy, and you may act out the role of a young Democratic supporter. And maybe we can discuss what the election might mean for the country and make some general comments about that. Certainly, I've heard a lot of disenchanted people. Many people have threatened to leave the country, or all kinds of issues that are before us now. And I might just start out with asking this question. Do you believe it was a fair election? I mean, I'm casting you, obviously, the voice of the Democratic Party, but what are your comments in general?
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts about that?
No, I think it was overall a fair election. There were some concerning aspects. The fact that there were 12 bomb threats that were directly tied to Russia in Georgia alone on Election Day, but two of which led to polling places being delayed and closed for a little while. That's concerning. We have evidence of ballots being burned in advance of the election. But I don't think that made a consequential difference in the outcome. And so I would say overall it's a fair election, but there was clear evidence of tampering.
Well, on the other side, certainly the Republicans can say the same, but I think the important issue, and if you have a nation of 350 million people in a contentious election, certainly things happen. And the Republicans can point to this as well. And I think an issue of consequence is that people pretty much accept the verdict of the ballot box, and I think that's good. And I don't think although I've heard reports that people are so upset they're going to riot in the streets or do this or do that. Nothing like that has happened, and actually, which I think speaks well of the Democratic Party and the way they've handled themselves in this election. Do you think that the public was not informed about the issues? Did that play a role in this? And right now, there's a lot of soul searching, I think, about what did or didn't go down, was the wrong strategy. But the question I'll ask is, were the issues put before the public? I mean, do people understand the two candidates?
No,
they did not. You don't think they did?
So. Information environment made the difference in this election completely.
Do you think that the Republicans got more favorable press? President Trump had more favorable press before the election. Do you really
Absolutely.
You think that? Really?
Kamala was expected to be the adult in the room, to be perfect on every level. Every argument was there's not enough detail in policy. There's not enough behind this. You're avoiding interviews. You're avoiding this. You're avoiding that. Meanwhile, Trump could say the most outlandish things and would never be checked, largely out of fear. We have a lot of evidence from journalists, from the media environment, that there was a great deal of fear of backlash to any attempt to really check the president's administration. What we would call sane washing definitely took place throughout this election. But it's more than just the media. It's, I think, a level of, depending on how involved you are in the goings-on of the world, that tended to dictate how you voted. The more educated you are, you tended to vote Democrat.
Well, that's a different issue. That's a different issue. I mean, just asking, did the public get? Did they understand the issues? Did the media? It was an even-handed media.
It was not an even-handed media.
The media was tilted.
The media was tilted, but it wasn't.
Trump,
I would say
Trump.
For Trump, but in many ways, though, it was not mainstream media that was the problem here. If you actually look at where people got their news, folks who got their news from blogs, from YouTube, from podcasts, tended very much to vote for Trump. Folks who got their news from newspapers, from more established media, legacy media types, tended to vote for Kamala, or at least it was more of an even split.
Now, that's an important issue, I think. So if you and the predispositions or assumptions behind the democratic system, it would be that you have a very moral, squared away population that generally is going to make the right decision for everyone's benefit. And the democratic arrangements will let that take place unless they don't get, they don't understand the issues, or the issues are not presented to them. And in general, on the other side of the street, the Republicans would say, and continue to say this, that the media is very, at least if you watch television, most of the traditional legacy media is extremely tilted toward the Democratic Party, and I think people would say that. Do you think it was not a good thing? There was only one debate between the two candidates. Would that have made it better if we had more interchange?
In some ways, yes, but I think that part of the problem is that the American public doesn't either have the attention span or the basic knowledge to understand most of these issues. 20% of Americans are functionally illiterate. And when it comes to policy debates, in general, Democrats tend to run circles around the modern Republican Party. They tend to be much more technocratic. They tend to be much better educated. The problem is American voters don't respond to big words like that. They want simple solutions. They want clear solutions, and Trump offered those.
Now, we can speak to that. Is it a problem with the electorate? In other words, if the problem is a defective American population that is unable or not intelligent enough to understand the issues, and therefore the Democratic Party is at a substantial disadvantage because they're more intelligent, and most of the voters are 20% are illiterate, as you allege. So, is that really going to torpedo democracy?
I would not say
can
that
a democracy work with 20% of the people functionally illiterate and not paying attention to the issues, not understanding the issues, listening to soap jingles, cartoons? Is that the problem?
I would say one that the electorate is not defective. What I see is
they're
as a
20%
messaging,
illiterate, right?
Yes, but as a messaging department, this is the thing that Democrats tended to aim too high. Instead of meeting folks where they are, instead of speaking like the common man, one might say, there is definitely an ivory tower edge to the Democratic Party.
So they're too intelligent? Is that the idea?
No.
They're too intelligent to, I guess, speak to the voters?
No.
Is that a problem?
No, I think that there is this ivory tower fantasy in this regard, that there is this academic speak that most folks don't actually want to bother with. There is certainly an attitude that you will always somehow appeal to the better nature of voters, to the higher nature of voters, but most folks don't understand a lot of these concepts, and that's not because they're not intelligent. That's genuinely because
20% are illiterate, and I mean,
illiteracy is not a reflection of intelligence.
What is
it is a reflection of education.
So they're illiterate. And shall we say intellectually defective?
No, I would not say intellectually defective.
Because they have not gotten the appropriate education, because the government has not allowed them to get a better education. And just to say this, I know you've been in Cuba, and do you think the government provides for appropriate guidance there? The voters did not get appropriate educational guidance in schools. Is that what happened?
Oh, absolutely.
No? Okay.
I went to a very good private school. I went to a very good private college, and I have a much better civics understanding than the average American. I guarantee you, though, that is not a reflection of the intelligence of the American people. That is a reflection of the failure of our institutions to adequately prepare ourselves, and it's a result of direct policy choices. Many of the least educated states are Republican states. Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Texas, all have some of the lowest education scores in the country. And when you actually look at who voted Republican, it tends to be folks who did not finish high school. It tends to be folks who do not have college degrees. It tends to be folks who have not gone through the higher education system. That does not mean that they are not intelligent people.
All right. Should those people that have a poor education, should they, because they voted for the Republicans, not be allowed to vote, or should they go to re-education camps?
What is this, Soviet Russia? No.
I'm probing some of the issues.
Re-education camps are antithetical to American society. Now, what it needs to happen is a messaging redirect on behalf of the Democratic Party. when you start speaking in academic language, when you start trying to meet policy with policy instead of actually talking about how folks are being really affected by issues, there was a 300% increase in Google searches for what is a tariff the day after the election. Most voters in this election did not vote on lines of policy. This was much more of a rejection of an incumbent party than anything else. That was a universal trend across the developed world. The Democratic Party actually had the best showing of any incumbent party in the developed world. Every other incumbent party in the developed world has lost seats or had the government completely changed.
How about in
over.
Cuba? I think they seem to be doing okay. They're hanging
Cuba
on.
is not doing okay,
So many,
remotely.
I know the government is staying in power, and you could go to China, the government is staying in power. You can go to Vietnam, the government is staying in power. So it's one of the issues I think we're getting into a little bit is the idea that if your side loses, it can't be your fault. It can't be your policies or don't comport with the public, that it must be some other thing, because the idea is that your policies are absolutely correct and the other side's policies are absolutely wrong. And if the people don't understand that, they can't understand this fundamental fact that that the Republican ideas are wrong, then there's something either amiss with them or the way the facts have been presented to them. I would submit there could be an argument that some of the Democratic Party principles have defects in them. And some of those defects have had an impact on people say, well, I don't like generals wearing dresses. I mean, maybe that's a hyperbole, but or whatever. I don't like people on the firing line when they're shooting in the military to get lemonade episodically, or whatever they don't or do like. And isn't it purgative and appropriate that if the democratic process has the advantage of requiring these episodic changes, and I would say requiring the episodic changes, and in a really socialist state, a communist state, want to say that, the government never is dismissed. And as a matter of fact, if you look at American history, things swing back and forth. And I know right now the Democratic, you're sort of mirroring some of the angst I think they're going through. I hope they'll understand that maybe some of their policies are in error. That's a big thing to say.
Well, I would challenge this in this aspect. When blinded and not told whose policy is what, Democratic policies tend to be overwhelmingly favored by the public. Absolutely. In terms of when experts review policies, Democratic policies tend to be better for economic growth, they tend to be better for social education, they tend to be better in many metrics across the board. The problem is that Democrats come off as nannies. They come off as scolding. They come off as saying, you were not smart enough to understand this, and we know better than you.
See, I'm smiling right now.
And
I wonder,
so
I wonder if the point has been made in our little conversation.
What I'm saying is that I'm acknowledging the failure of our messaging.
But not the policies.
No, not the policies.
The policies
not
are,
the policies.
are without, you can't say
when
some
people,
of the policies.
When people are asked, do you want Obamacare or do you want the Affordable Care Act? People respond overwhelmingly negative to Obamacare, overwhelmingly positive to the Affordable Care Act. They're the exact same thing. It's a question of messaging.
So it's more than that, isn't it? In other words, if you're one of the 350 million citizens there, and we're going to say, I want you to sit down and read this manuscript that brings up all kinds of interesting, there's thousands of pages possibly. We're going to talk about climate, we're going to talk about gas mileage, we're going to talk about minimum wage, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And in general, I don't think the policies are understandable. Or that people just don't have the time to really parse them out. So as some of these policies may be good, they may be bad. And the other point about this is it depends on where you sit on this information. So you said uniformly people choose Democratic policies. That would, not everyone would, and some, if they
not
really
everyone,
and it goes back to the advantages. Where you sit, if I'm going to get a very major advantage from whatever, let's say the earned income tax credit or something like that. Okay, well that sounds good if I get it. On the other hand, if I have to pay extra taxes to do this or whatever, I mean, there'd be people that would be disadvantaged with the policy. So it would depend on who it is that goes through and votes on this, depending on their self-interest and how well they understand their self-interest. So what I'm getting in, I'm trying to make the case that it's not so simple as just a messaging problem, whatever. A lot of this could be a defect in the democratic process, the way that it plays itself out, which is something that people don't really commonly discuss.
Well, as
But
Churchill
so,
said, democracy is the worst form of
best.
government except for every form of government that's been tried.
That's right. And so the question is, can the democratic process be improved? I don't think Churchill said, that's it, we're not going to make any other steps toward that. And indeed, when he said that, which was some time ago, if you looked at the way you could call America a democracy, let's say he made that comment in 1940, and certainly many people would not say that was the case. They'd say this is something else other than what I call a democracy. So the word is constantly being reworked, reestablished, and it's being molded by circumstance, if I could say that, the whole way the political system works. And as to me, I find it a pretty salutary event that this event occurred. And I think one of the things that would be most salutary about it is if the Democratic Party went, and I congratulate them by not rioting in the streets. I congratulate them, and I say that as and the fact that they accept the way the situation works.
Democrats are the party of law and order these days. So.
Possibly, they can claim whatever. They're not without their merit. I totally agree with that. But the idea is, well, what is the country all about? Did it swing were the policies too far to the left? What is it that really disturbed people? And I think you're saying many times people vote on their perceived self-interest. They cannot parse out the policies. They can't do this, they can't do that. And I think I believe, as far as I know, the information that was before the public was impressive. Although maybe the electoral process was abbreviated because of the Democratic candidate. Nevertheless, Trump has been under a microscope for months.
Well, he has
years,
been convicted of 34
years,
felonies.
and also people have accepted the fact that he's gone through many experiences and been declared a villain and a felon and faces criminal time, and every kind of bad thing you could say has been said about him, and every effort to put him in jail has happened. And so in looking at this, I think the public thought, well, this is too much. Maybe the Democratic Party and their operatives are getting over the line of what we might call some primordial sense of fairness, something. I mean, I was saying, now maybe this is not your opinion, but I would submit that many people had that opinion, and that when an event takes place, whatever it is, many people would say, that's absolutely perfect, correct. The guy should have been executed. This guy's Adolf Hitler Jr., we live in Nazi Germany. All these things could be said and believed, and possibly in some circumstances have a patina of truth about them. But when people see the circumstances, they say, I didn't extract that from that particular event. And I have a different opinion. And and then the argument would be, well, you have an incorrect opinion because you're either illiterate, stupid, or uneducated. And the idea of the Democrats, or many people, the Republicans are certainly they have their many crimes. I could speak about Republican crimes in great detail. But just the way that the salutary impact of the election and the cleansing of the democratic process, I think, was good. Now, having said that, I will now move on to this subject.
Before I want to push back on one thing.
Right, yes.
This overwhelmingly, in terms of how voters, this was not a vote on social issues for the most part. The Democratic Party, in terms of where it moved its campaign, was effectively Bush-level politics. We were literally bringing the Cheneys back. We were campaigning in camo hats. This was not an issue where the left was pushing major social issues. Instead, this was more overwhelmingly, in my opinion, a rejection by voters of what they perceived as two things. One, immigration, and two, inflation. Those were the two biggest issues. It had really very little to do, I think, with being too far left on various issues. It was people did not like that their wallets were being hurt, and people were feeling a sense of social and economic and demographic anxiety.
Well, you could say we could both speculate on what motivated people and their opinions, but what the point I'm making is that the public saw many things, and there had been a long period of brooding about this, and they've been pretty well informed, at least on character issues, on emotional connections. The policy issues I don't think were there, but look at all the things that Trump said he planned to do. I'm going to do this, I'm going to deport. There was no mystery as to what his policy arrangements were. And there's such an anathema to many people that it's surprising people sort of went along with it in the ballot box. That reflects a misunderstanding of the way humans respond to circumstances. And I would say this about the democratic system. If you imagine the democratic system is always going to produce a pure result that comports with your ideas about truth and goodness and you name it, then that won't be the case. And things are going to go back and forth. And I'll make this comment about Winston Churchill, whatever. Let's remember, the democratic system can often be a road to tyranny or evil. And Adolf Hitler, his electoral victories, you could say that the democratic socialist republics, the way that they validate their regimes, you could say the terrible situation that exists in Cuba is validated by the political system. It's a democratic system. Well, this is what's produced.
None of those are what we would call liberal democratic systems.
But they are. That's right. So we're getting back to the word democratic and what it means. So the way that the definition is, the democratic system is whatever I say it is, and it may change another way and whatever.
Well, actually, there are clear gradations across the political science spectrum. This is a very well studied and very well laid out piece of literature. This is not like some opinion, vibes-based thing about how I feel democracy is going. There's been a lot of scholarship on this study.
Well, I don't doubt there has, but whether it's really demarcated the extent of the problem, I'm not sure about it. So I would say the words change, and they change depending on circumstances. And so many people use the word democratic, or we're in a democracy, to mean one thing and not another. So you could say, well, the country is a democracy because we have free speech. But if you say whatever it is, it's 1950, this is a democracy, and then they have the Hollywood 8 or whatever, we're going to blacklist people for their opinions. Does that change what this democracy does? So if you say, I'm a real scholar, I've all got it worked out, and it's 1950 and this happens, does that change the idea that it's a democratic country? It has some kind of little asterisk by it. So these asterisks are constantly being put there. The general arrangement is one that can be corrupted and misused. The word can be corrupted and misused. So I think we have to be pretty careful about how that's used. And then what I'm talking about a little bit is this is a good thing about democracy. What happened was really good. And I know you might not think that. In that there's an electoral, there's a change. There's still plenty of checks and balances present. So people imagine right now, I know they think Adolf Hitler is in the White House and he's going to, well, maybe he's been disturbed. Maybe he's a disturbed person there. But there's so many checks and balances that are out there that it should keep the country on its feet. That's my thought about it.
Let's talk checks and balances then. As you yourself have agreed, he is clearly showing early signs of dementia. He is clearly mentally disturbed at this point.
Let me expand.
In terms of let me finish.
Not what I said.
Let me finish.
I will expand it.
Let me finish, and then you can respond after I finished. In terms of checks and balances, we have a trifecta of Republican control: House, Senate, and the White House, and the courts. The Supreme Court is stacked in favor of Trump appointees, and he's likely to get 2 more in favor. They've already granted presidential immunity, which is a complete erosion of a traditional sense of checks and balances that had existed. Two,
It's more I think if you parse that case out, I think it's a little more
no,
complicated.
it's really not. I've read the whole case.
You may have read it, but what the
it's-
interpretation that people have after having read it is there's some limitation. It's not just a
There is a limit.
total-
If the
there
president
are
is
limitations.
impeached, he can be tried. But once again, you control the Senate, you control the House. In terms of the House, now the House majority might slip as he pulls people away into the administration, but that's a questionable aspect. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is not someone who is a serious policymaker. He's a good politician. He's a good political leader, but the man cannot debate serious policy. He doesn't even believe in dinosaurs. In terms of the Senate,
Yes.
we have a serious issue. Now, the new Senate leadership, in terms of John Thune, is a very good sign. It's more of an establishment. It's more of a continuation of tradition. But there is already a strong current that is being felt by a large number of Trumpist Republicans within the Senate that there should be an immediate move to recess in order to do recess appointments of Trump nominees. That is a direct abdication of a sense of checks and balances,
And of
if
course,
that's allowed to happen.
Right. Just to say this, a lot of things have been touted out there. Some of the Democrats are there. We're going to pack the Supreme Court. They've got ideas here. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. All these things are floated. Many ideas emanate from the political circles, and they're tossed out there to see how well they work. And that's what Trump has been doing for huge lengths of time, and his ideas have been so attractive to many people. You could say the majority of people that live here in the country that are Americans. Very attractive.
Not quite the majority. He's on track to win 49% of the popular vote, give or take.
The polarity of it would be close. But just to go through the deal, okay, we taught all these things. All these people are very alarmed. He's doing this, he's doing that. And I would say this, the chances of the most extreme things happening are unlikely. You mentioned, firstly, the assumption is that the voters that are in that have put in the House of Representatives have put in ideologues that are wearing Nazi armbands floating around there going to say Sieg Heil when he comes in. Many are probably in his trail or in his thrall, but certainly not everyone is there. And the same in the Senate. And also, people guard their prerogatives very tightly. And the idea that, just to say this, the whole country will go along with whatever extreme ideas are put there, or that without any question they're going to do this, they're going to do that, is a misunderstanding of America.
Well, I'm not saying the country's going to go
It's a tremendous understanding. No, the system has enough checks and balances to cause all kinds of issues. You could look at the universities that are out there. You can look at the people that live here. You could look at the power of the money. The Democratic Party raised a lot more money, over $1 billion
Except that
at least.
7 of the 10 largest donors were for Republicans, and they were all in excess of $100 million.
We can go through and parse the money out, but there's no shortage of money, influence. The mass media, thousands of people watch this. You've got presses out there. And not a thing has happened as far as I can see. And some of the ideas that he proposes, not the most extreme ones, but many of the ideas I think would be acceptable for the long-term welfare of the country. So if I were looking at the long-term welfare of the country, all right, the country needs to be in sync with the circumstances in which it exists. But the idea of let's say generals wear dresses, the idea there's not any difference between genders. The genders are all the same, there's no difference. And that money should be easily passed along to people that are maybe pretty much sitting on the sidelines of life, a tremendous redistribution of whatever. There should be a real limit to events taking place. Those are, I mean, you can say there are valid things that are there that in the middle of this that people need to seriously understand and entertain their ideas. And the Democrats likewise have good ideas.
And we can debate policy measures. The problem is the people that are being nominated to carry out these policies. We have Matt Gaetz being nominated for Attorney General, who has resigned in disgrace from Congress because tomorrow there will be a vote whether or not to release an ethics investigation that is more likely than not going to find that he trafficked and raped minors. We have Hegspeth, who is a Fox News host, who's been nominated for Secretary of Defense, who is a Christian nationalist, who is a militant Christian nationalist, and who has been had a rocky relationship with the military because of his belief systems. We have Tulsi Gabbard, who was by Russian state media's own admission and bragging a Russian supporter and asset in their own words, and that places our intelligence community in danger. We have RFK, who has said he wants to ban all vaccines, who wants to go after Americans' rights to have whatever food they want to have and attack our ability to be free and eat whatever we want to eat as Americans is our God-given right, and who, when he, in his capacity as an anti-vaxxer, caused a measles outbreak in Samoa that killed 83 people. The only thing that's going to make America, that's going to be made great again in America over the next 4 years is measles.
Well,
we are looking at a disturbing trend long-term in terms of these people.
All right.
All right.
Let me just wrap up. All right, Harry. Well, you've named some things that are these appointments that President Trump has suggested. They still have to be approved. There are lots of checks when they're in there. There's
I hope
system.
that they are checked.
And I'm not. It may just be a negotiatory arrangement. But having said this, the idea that there's an open road to tyranny and concentration camps, and that's just not the case, and that's what happens with the democratic system. Sometimes these things happen. Well, Harry, I appreciate your presence and good ideas. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.